Stop the cap.
Let me ask you this. What about what they've said in terms of black, particularly black men and Latinos, supported him more than they have in the past? Why do you think that is? And what do you have to say to black men and Latinos who were not in favor of supporting Kamala Harris?
Oh, honey. Oh, honey. When your favorite niece and your 13-year-old daughter is raped by your alcoholic brother or the next door neighbor, and she tries to abort that baby inside of her from a rape, you're going to regret that. They want to keep women in their place. It's so disgusting. I can't even put words to them voting for her. They didn't vote for her, didn't vote because she was a woman. They didn't care that she was smart and powerful, educated, beautiful, kind, joyful, fearless. She would have taken care of this country. She would have protected the people. She would have surrounded herself with great minds. But keeping women in their place was more important to them. And black men, that was just shocking because, honey, he's going to give the military and the police permission to shoot you in your back and there will be no immunity. So, baby, y'all done fucked up. You took every right from your children. Once again, there will be no social security and pensions and rights. This thing has said you will never have to vote again. He's going to be in charge of the military. We have fucked up. End of story.
You don't think it was a simple situation of looking at the economy, looking at inflation, looking at crime and saying, providing and protect. And as men, that's what we want. And as a result of that, I mean, I voted for her. I wasn't voting for him. But speaking to men who felt differently, they didn't think about Roe v. Wade. They didn't think about stuff. They thought about the economy, money in their pockets, and safety in the streets.
Well, listen,
it couldn't have been as simple as that.
First of all, do you see women breaking in people's houses? Do you see women shooting each other in the streets? No. They voted because they voted for Trump because, I hate saying his name. They voted for him because they hate themselves. And they see this thing as powerful, that he's going to move mountains for them and make them rich. And unfortunately, black men, they want a man. They were saying, I'm voting for the man. Well, we're going to see about that. And don't think we're all not at fault. All of us. We went to our jobs and came home and sat on the sofa and watched movies of destruction. Superman, Batman, the end of this, Armageddon. Well, all of that social consciousness has brought us here. So now, like I said, Lex Luthor is finally in the fucking White House. What are you going to do about it?
This lady is batshit crazy. I don't know, who is she? Some sort of actress. I've seen her before. Can't think of what movies, but anyway, batshit crazy. I mean, notice how she immediately goes into rape and pillage. I mean, just starts off with rape and pillage. And then Stephen A. Smith pushes back with, you don't think it had anything to do with the economy? Even when she was bringing up Kamala Harris. And, I don't understand this black women identifying with Kamala Harris when any other day of the week, this is a light-skinned bitch exotical. Any other day of the week. Let a dark-skinned black man date Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris it's colorism, it's white supremacy, it's the black man is self-hating. But in this moment, because they want to see what appears to be a quote unquote black woman to be, in the White House and in a position of power, which only reinforces the ideas of feminism, right? Because we all know that that's what black women would be running with if Kamala Harris was president, right? And I'm saying black men, made this mistake, in the past, although voting for Barack Obama after, like, this is what happens when you have, a shit economy, right? Obama came in on the tail end of Bush and freaking the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? And it quite as it's kept, Barack Obama dropped more drones and bombs, on anybody. Right, but people were feeling the economy was when Obama took over, the economy was struggling under Bush. And then, black people, and again, I got to give credit to Tavis Smiley and Cornel West because they were on Barack Obama's ass. They were like, yeah, all the black people supported you, got you in, and then Barack Obama, held black people off at arm's length. You know what I mean? But black men today do not support Barack Obama, and I think that there's been a shift, especially in these concepts of tethers and tethering, because we see that the Democrat Party does three things. Democrat Party throws up LGBTQ members, especially when it comes to black men, and then label that as the black man and the black man's opinion. They don't get masculine, heteronormative cisgender black men to speak for themselves. No, they go and find the gayest mofo in the room in order to try to articulate some sort of feminized point and then claim that speaks for the majority of straight black men, which it does not. Or they go off and they get black feminists to speak, or they go off and get black tethers to speak, who are not African American descent and background and culture and didn't grow up here. Right, they get these people that do not have, any sort of real legacy or connection to this country, don't understand how the system of white supremacy works, and are literally put there as puppets to undermine the African American community. They're not going. I mean, the fact that they refuse to put. To actually have black men up there, masculine black men, it really goes to show you how much black men are much more on code than black women. I know black women are going to jump up and deny that because, they have this different worldview. They think, oh, we're saving democracy, right? Not staying on code, thinking that they can form coalitions and Voltron with every other group, right? As opposed to focusing narrowly on the black community. This is what happened with feminism and bringing in, or joining forces with white women who had their beef with their men. Just a bunch of nonsense. Harazad Ali has already talked about that. Just messy. And again, Kamala Harris went up there and, I'm not going to do anything just for black people. No, right? I mean, it came out of her own mouth. And here you have, this group of black women, which are the majority of black women, who have this sort of idea that, we'd be in a better place. I'm like, do you not understand that, first off, black people have been frustrated with the Democratic Party, especially black men, for a very long time. We've seen the pandering to the women. We've seen the symbolism and nothing ever gets done. Black people's material condition has not changed over the course of decades. I don't even get these old black people who, like, you've literally gone your whole life with the socioeconomic condition and situation of black people getting progressively worse, and yet you're still saying we're going to vote for the same party that we voted for in 1965. It makes no sense. Like, who are these so-called black elders, black so-called leaders and whatnot? They're a hot damn mess. They're so caught up, they're so drunk on the symbolism, despite the fact that nothing gets done. It's insane. But yet they go up there with all the, pulling on the heartstrings and all this other nonsense. The freaking comment section of Jasmine Brand was even worse. It was even worse. The whole comment section full of a bunch of women and men don't care about women. Just nonsense. Nonsense. And again, from the male perspective, it's so stupid. Like, feminism is just the dumbest thing in the world because, as we all know, regardless of whatever women fight for or say that the point that they got to get to, men are still expected to fulfill the same traditional patriarchal responsibilities as they've always been expected to fulfill. It doesn't change for us. It's not like feminism comes in the room and, oh, here we are as feminists to relieve you of your duties. No, 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 no. Feminists want men to literally do the same exact thing men have been doing, but minus the power, right? Minus the reward, minus the recognition, minus the reverence, minus all of the rewards, right? They just want you to come in and just be responsible. I've said that a million goddamn times. And they act like men don't see it. That men don't see it. And the reality is men are not going to do all of these things that men have traditionally done without any of that there. All you're going to see is the passport bros. All you're going to see is people, men leaving, going abroad, right? That's what you're going to see. That's what you're currently seeing now. I mean, it's nuts. These women are so consumed with the idea of power, right? Which the stupid thing is they're not going to do anything with it other than beg the government to literally forcibly extract resources from men so that there's some magical pot in the middle that women can just grab into and take what they need so that they can go off and be single moms with resources. That's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to not have, a family. The goal is to, if men aren't going to basically play bitch to me, if men are going to play second fiddle to me, right, even though we don't do any of the building, maintaining, or defending of the physical infrastructure, then Big Daddy government needs to play, the man role and give me infinite resources so I can run off and do whatever the fuck I want to do. And the stupid thing is as men begin to exit society, shut down, self-delete, swim in a bottle, leave the country, right, or just not participate, you already see women talk about men don't go to clubs anymore. Men are just exiting the building. You're hemorrhaging right now, and none of the modern women see it. They literally think that there's some war to be won. Okay, and you're going to get to a point, right? You see all this shit, jobs suck, the job search sucks, the job market sucks. You're going to get to a point where the government doesn't have any men to tax to forcibly extract resources from. The whole thing breaks down, which means you have more women taking resources out of the pot than you have men putting resources into the pot. The same arguments that women make about, I can't find anybody on my level. I can't find anybody to hypergamously date. And again, more feminist contradictions. Oh, we want feminism, women fist in the air, but we all want to date up. We all want to date a man making $250,000 or more. And literally that's less than 5% of the fucking U.S. male population. But all of them want that. But then when you have a conversation about improving the quality of men by allocating resources to boys so that boys develop into these highly productive men that women claim that they want, women are like, oh no, more patriarchy. No, we don't want that. What we want rich men with no power to tell me what to do, even though they're paying for it. And those will be the men that we marry. And they're just available to us. I'm like, that's like, what type of crack are these women smoking? I wanted to dispel some of these feminist myths, right? Let me go over here. I was doing some research. I was doing some research, right? And so I hear from feminists that, the patriarchy exists basically to cater to the fragile male ego. That's the only reason patriarchy exists, to oppress women and crush women, and that's why it exists. You know why patriarchy exists? You know what the real primary reason why patriarchy exists and is directly tied to survival. You know why? Because the human species is a warring species. That's why. Because of war. The reason why patriarchy exists is because of war. Because humans, for thousands of years, for thousands of millennia, have warred. In environments where there's been less war, you see you see more egalitarian societies. But wherever there is war, wherever there is conflict, nobody has time to entertain that bullshit. Neither the women nor the men. So anyway, let me further read and explain and break all this shit down. The historical tendency of societies to lean towards patriarchy, male-dominated social, political, and economic systems can be attributed to a combination of practical, evolutionary, and social cultural factors. These factors were shaped not only by the needs of survival and competition, but also by human behavior, tendencies, and roles that women played within these systems. Where am I at? And here it is. And patriarchy emerged and persisted along with the roles women played in supporting and incentivizing it. Number one, practical and evolutionary reasons for patriarchy. Physical strength and labor division. Survival priorities. Early human societies depended heavily on physical labor for hunting, gathering, farming, and defense. Men on average have a greater upper body strength due to evolutionary factors. This made men more suited to physical defending roles, including warfare and resource acquisition, which were critical for survival. Division of labor. Women were often more involved in child rearing due to biological constraints such as pregnancy, breastfeeding, and early child care. This naturally limited their ability to participate in activities like hunting, long-distance warfare, or exploration, reinforcing a division of labor that assigned leadership and decision-making to men. Competition between groups. Intergroup conflict. Groups that prioritized male cooperation in warfare often succeeded over others, particularly in environments with limited resources. Patriarchal structures allowed men to form hierarchies and alliances that were crucial in competitive or hostile settings. Territorial expansion. Societies with organized military systems led by men often outcompeted less hierarchical or egalitarian groups. This reinforced the centrality of male leadership. Resources, control, and inheritance. Land and property ownership. In agrarian societies, controlling land and resources became essential for wealth and status. Men being the primary laborers and defenders of these resources often dominated systems of inheritance and governance. Paternal certainty. Patrilineal inheritance systems passing wealth to male descendants required systems that ensured paternal certainty. These systems often constrained female sexuality to secure lineage, reinforcing male control over women. You got to know that the baby is yours. We didn't have birth control in ancient times. Not birth control, paternity test in ancient times. So you got to control a woman's sexuality. Otherwise, women will do what? Fuck somebody else, and then you're raising and investing in the biological DNA of another man and not yourself, which is, we can argue how much that's threat. Think about it like this. That goes on today. And we have DNA tests, and women still try to get away with it. Imagine what "you're not the father" looked like in ancient times. Imagine what that shit looked like. Imagine how many men whose genes didn't go forward because they thought that those kids were theirs and those kids were, some other dude. Mate selection. Evolutionarily, men often compete for status and resources to attract mates, while women tended to prefer mates who could provide security and protection. Patriarchy in many ways institutionalized this dynamic by concentrating power and resources amongst men. Risk-taking and leadership. Men as a group exhibit greater variability in traits like risk-taking and aggression. These traits may have led to more men occupying leadership roles in competitive societies where boldness and aggression, were advantageous. I think Chronicles of Riddick, you keep what you kill, right? So the more men compete, right, the more it's likely that among those competing men, you're going to have men who are more successful. And those more successful men gain more power. And those men with more power, women are more attracted to. All of this is a part of, the evolution of human beings and the social interaction that human beings have. Women participate in this dynamic. They're not just women operating on hypo agency. Comparative perspective. What other groups were doing. Matrilineal and matriarchal systems. Some societies, the Iroquois Confederacy, certain African communities operated under matrilineal systems where lineage and inheritance were traced through women. Sorry, I'm choking. However, these systems through women, where am I at? where lineage and inheritance were traced through women. However, these systems often still had male leaders in key decision-making roles, highlighting the rarity of true matriarchies. These societies often thrived in less competitive or resource-abundant environments where constant warfare was not a dominant survival strategy. And this goes back to the book, The Iceman Inheritance, where Europeans, they had to worry about winters. If you didn't prepare and save for the winter, then you were struggling. Again, Europeans having more Neanderthal DNA, Africans not really having Neanderthal DNA, although some have argued that the Neanderthal came back and remigrated back into Africa. But in any event, the argument is that Africa is the Garden of Eden, and having war was less prevalent in ancient, let's say sub-Saharan Africa because of the fact that there was more abundance. But depending on how far back you go, because, again, we all know that at one point there was a green Sahara, so there was no such thing as a sub-Saharan, Africa. But you get my point, right? If you can pluck fruit off of trees, right? If there's an abundance of animals around because you're living in a tropical climate, you can have a more egalitarian society because there's an abundance of resources to go around. There's no real reason for you to war for limited resources. And that's what you saw with Europeans because they're in a climate zone where they have to deal with winter. That's what you saw with the freaking, Genghis Khan and the Mongols, right? Because again, Northern Hemisphere, that's what you saw in the Arabian Peninsula. Again, lack of water, lack of fertile land, right? So anywhere, who said it? I think it was Karen Strong who said it, Girl Writes What, where she said, harsher the environment, stronger the patriarchy. And that's pretty much the way that it goes. It makes sense. Where are we at? These societies often thrived in less competitive and resource abundant environments where constant warfare was not a dominant survival strategy. I already said that. Nomadic and egalitarian societies. Hunter-gatherer groups, which were more egalitarian, often saw gender roles as flexible. However, as these groups transitioned to agriculture and resource accumulation, hierarchies became more pronounced. Again, going back to if you stick in one spot and you're growing crops in one spot, you have to defend that territory. And the only ones that are going to defend that territory are what? Men. Patriarchal structures offered competitive advantages in agriculture and warfare-driven societies, leading them to dominate more egalitarian systems over time. So patriarchy didn't just come into existence. It evolved, and then it was victorious against the other groups. If egalitarian societies were more effective, then you would see that egalitarian societies would win in conflicts against patriarchal societies. But the reason why you don't see matriarchal societies in this world is not because men just decided, oh, we're just going to oppress women, okay? It's because the egalitarian societies with their bitch-ass males lost the wars. Women's role in supporting and incentivizing patriarchy. And let me be clear, can a patriarchy lose against another patriarchy? Yes, but you got a better shot with a patriarchy against another patriarchy than having a patriarchy go up against a matriarchy or go up against an egalitarian society. You do not put ballerinas in a boxing ring with boxers. You don't do it. But, good luck telling that to black feminists in the black community that always want to talk about, how fucked up the black community is and how dominated it is and everything else. But they keep trying to push and reinforce feminist ideology, which white supremacy is sitting in the background going, yes, brilliant, more. And black women just, yes, we're strong and independent. You're just dumb, retarded shit. Where am I at? I lost my space. I lost my spot. I got to scroll down again. Competition, resources control, inheritance. Where am I at? Territorial expansion, reinforcing male control, evolutionary psychology. We already covered that. Compared to its perspective, what other groups? No, we already covered that. Dominant strategy, survival, nomadic and egalitarian societies. Hunter, here we are. So hunter-gatherer, I'll repeat myself anyway. Hunter-gatherer groups, which were more egalitarian, often saw gender roles as flexible. However, as their groups transitioned to agricultural and resources accumulation, hierarchies became more pronounced. Patriarchal structures offered competitive advantages in agriculture and warfare-driven societies, leading them to dominate more egalitarian systems over time. Women's role in supporting and incentivizing patriarchy, and here's social and cultural norms. Transitions of patriarchal values. Women often served as the primary caregivers and educators of children, transmitting cultural norms that supported patriarchy. These are the handmaidens. These are the pick-me-shes, right? Such as emphasizing traditional gender roles or obedience to male authority. This is women reinforcing that. Dowry and marriage practices. Women participated in reinforcing systems like dowries, which, I would like to marry your daughter. And okay, well, it's going to, you're going to have to give the family, 50 goats. You're going to have to give the family, or give my wife, control of whatever, the land, whatever. This is where you get into the matrilineal, even though it's still a patriarchal society. Okay. Women participated in reinforcing systems like dowries, arranged marriages, and family honor, which often subordinated their autonomy but ensured social stability with patriarchal frameworks. In other words, I'm going to get with the patriarchy if there's something I'm getting out of it. Female alliances and power dynamics. Strategic alliances. Women in patriarchal systems often sought power through strategic alliances, such as marrying into influential families or positioning their sons for leadership roles. Reinforcement of hierarchies. Women who conformed to or benefited from patriarchal systems, queens, noble women, often perpetuated these systems to maintain their own status. So you had the general population that would reinforce it because there were benefits in it. And then you had the higher ranks of society who were also doing that to reinforce it. So it was from the top all the way down to the bottom. Economic contributions. Women often manage households, agricultural labor, and artisanal crafts, contributing to the economic stability of patriarchal societies. Their labor allowed for men to focus on external roles like governance or warfare, indirectly supporting male-dominated systems. In other words, when the Romans were expanding their Roman Empire, who do you think was home taking care of the fucking kids? Female preference for stability. Many women found stability and protection in patriarchal systems, particularly in societies where male protection was necessary for survival. In harsh environments, harsher the environment, stronger the patriarchy. Or during times of war, this incentivized women to support systems that prioritized male leadership. Transition, and evolution of patriarchy. Industrialization and modernization. As physical labor became, and this is where we are now, as physical labor became less critical with the advent of machines, the practical basis for patriarchy weakened. Women began to enter the workforce and gain economic independence. Education and rights education and rights movements. Increased access to education and legal rights for women in the 19th and 20th centuries challenged the foundations of patriarchy, enabling more egalitarian systems to emerge. In others, this goes to that whole, what is it? Hard men make good times make soft men make hard times make strong men make good times, and all that other shit, right? That's the whole idea. So right now, technically speaking, we're in good times, right? In terms of, the overall quality of life, the longevity with which most people live. Most people in ancient times, people died in their like 40s and 50s. Okay, people now can expect to live into their 80s if they, stay healthy and whatnot. Okay, so that has changed everything. But again, with feminism and all this other stuff and men checking out of society, right? Because they're like, hey, again, you throw in capitalism and bitch about that, right? So you end up with this system, where that's slowly beginning to crumble. Families are falling apart. They're dissolving. You have children that are growing up in these sort of broken homes. You have dysfunctional males, right, that don't have a positive male identity, right? You have women who still want to engage in hypergamy despite all of the changes, right, that, the modern society brings forth. Women still, their hard wiring is still saying, I want the tallest male, I want the strongest male, I want, the male with all the resources, as though we're still living in ancient times. The problem is not the men not adapting or not adjusting, to feminism or modernity. No, the problem is the women who engage in mate selection, like with one foot in the past and one foot in the present. And to sit there and, we want men to be this way and accept this way, but that's not what women are attracted to. It's the same problem we have in the black community. Women, we want black men, they need to go to school and get an education, and they need to be this type of way and that type of way, and they need to pay attention to my feelings and be understanding and all that other shit. And then in the black community, you see black women out there getting with who? The savages. Getting with who? The niggas with bodies. Getting with who? The niggas with felons. Right? Like as though, it's like Fury Road out here or some shit like that. Like it's Mad Max and the Road Warrior. Right? So while women will say one thing, their behaviors are in a completely different direction, and there seems to be no accountability in regards to that. There's no hey, women, you're saying this, but this is what's really going down. And again, the idea that men are just going to sit there and accept that and watch that and be bitchless and say, hey, I'm being, suggested to behave and operate in this manner that doesn't benefit me. Like, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And then the women's response to that is, you must be a misogynist. Better to be a misogynist that's getting some goddamn pussy than to be a guy that's filled with modernity and none of the women fucking want. That is not conducive to passing your genes forward and engaging in the social Darwinism of sexual reproduction. Why does this thing keep scrolling up? So, in conclusion, patriarchy was not established solely to cater to men's egos, but arose as a complex response to evolutionary, practical, and competitive pressures. It offered survival advantages in specific historical contexts, but also relied on the active participation and reinforcement by both men and women. Understanding the interplay of these factors helps clarify why patriarchy emerged and persisted, while also explaining its gradual decline in a more egalitarian and modern society. Okay, so we're on the decline right now. And what's going to happen is modern society will collapse. Okay, there will be no jobs, no economic opportunities. Crimes will rise. Okay, governments will dissolve, right? Overlords, not overlords, freaking warlords will take over in specific regions, right? Those that are the most alpha, those that are the most dominant, right? You can freaking take the Constitution and take what you think is right and justice and the Bible, like in the movie, the Book of Eli and shit, where they were all just, it was post-apocalyptic and they were trying to gather the Bible because, the dude was talking about how he can control people's minds with the Bible. Okay, morality goes out the door when you start talking about going back to some shit like the goddamn Middle Ages. Okay, the whole reason the banking system exists is because when travelers were traveling, they would get robbed. If you were trying to travel down the Silk Road, you would get robbed. But see, if you could take your stuff, deposit it in one location, and then travel to another location with nothing on you, it would only be a matter of time where the criminals would realize there's no point in even trying to jack those caravans because the caravans, they don't have shit on them. You know what I mean? Other than a whole bunch of heavy material that we can't fucking move, right? We want gold, we want bullion. We want gold coins and shit like that. Well, again, if I make a deposit and I travel somewhere else and I have the equivalent of an ancient, like a scroll that was the ancient, credit card or a debit card, right? And then I go and meet the Knights Templar Bank, in Jerusalem, I don't have to worry about getting robbed. Okay, take the piece of paper and you ain't going to get nothing. And slowly over time, people recognize, okay, shit, ain't no point in robbing people of these damn, whatever piece of paper or seal or whatever to steal some shit because he ain't going to get anything out of it. It's not like you can go and sit there and be like, yeah, I got this off of this merchant I stole from on the way to Jerusalem. And then I would like to cash it. No, you probably lose your head. You see what I'm saying? So, that's why, the whole banking system even came into being. But anyway, there was another thing that I wanted to talk about. Women talking about, what were they talking about? No, I think I got to go back. Let me go back. I was talking about bank accounts. Yes. There's another thing. I had a woman that was talking about women aren't even able to open up a bank account. They couldn't open up a bank account. That shows that women, they had no power and it was the evil patriarchy because women had no rights. Blah, blah, blah. Again, women supported patriarchy, historically speaking, because of all the things that were built into patriarchy that obviously benefited women. See, women always want to talk about the things they don't like about patriarchy, right? Which we can talk about reforms, but they don't talk about the things that are in patriarchy or were in patriarchy that they actually like. That's why you got women bitching today. Chivalry is dead. Oh my God, where's the chivalry? The chivalry is dead. That's why they're bitching about shit like men aren't men anymore. What does that mean? Men need to man up. What does that mean? Oh, you mean you want us to go back to the very period that you claim that right now you're trying to escape from. Notice how they want men to go back to some bygone era. They want men to be like men were in the past, ignoring the fact that that was patriarchy, right? Completely ignoring them. Like I always say, they want men to go back to the past to be patriarchal in the sense of patriarchal responsibilities. But what they're trying to get rid of in modern times is patriarchal leadership. Leadership. Men aren't being men anymore. Why are men being men? Men need to man up. What does man up mean? What does it mean? On top of the fact that how does a man up and be, to provide for a woman more than she can provide for herself without the man being ahead? How does that work? I've asked that question a million times. I have yet to get an answer. How does a man do for you more than you can do for yourself if the man is not ahead? How does that work? Anyway, so women and bank accounts, historical barriers. Let's talk about it. In the United States and other Western countries, women, especially married women, often required their husband's permission to open a bank account. This restriction persisted until well into the 20th century. For example, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 finally made it illegal in the U.S. for banks to discriminate against women by requiring a husband's signature for loans or accounts. Single women versus married women. Single women often had slightly more financial independence and could sometimes open accounts, though societal norms still made it difficult. Married women faced significant legal barriers due to coverture, which assigned financial and legal responsibilities to their husbands. Could married women accrue debt? Under coverture laws, married women were generally unable to accrue debt independently, as they were not considered separate legal entities from their husbands, right? Because, again, marriage is a legal contract. Your father walks you down the aisle and then hands you over to another man. That is what the whole ceremony of marriage is. It is a legal and binding contract, not just a contract between you and God and you and your man. Okay? Some women could accrue debt through informal means, such as running a household accounts or using credit extended to their husbands. In rare cases, courts allowed married women to act as legal representatives in matters related to their dowries or inherited wealth. This covers the area of slavery. Okay, because again, as the video that I posted on my community tab about, white women and them sexually assaulting their black male slaves, women often received more slaves as dowry than white men did. White men typically got land and all that shit. Women got slaves. They got slaves were given to them. Okay? And so you would have a woman who had the slaves, and she married a man, and then the slaves essentially were transferred under, that household. He had the land, and then they would come together. And I'm sure there were some exceptions in there, but generally speaking, that's how it happened. Key turning points: Married Women Property Acts, 19th century. These laws passed in various U.S. states and other countries starting in the mid-1800s began to allow married women to own property, sign contracts, and engage in business separate from their husbands. However, these acts often did not address issues like access to credit or the ability to open bank accounts without male oversight. Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974, this U.S. law explicitly prohibited discrimination based on sex or marital status, allowing women to access credit and banking services independently. Conclusion: for much of history, married women could not open bank accounts or accrue debt without their husband's involvement due to the legal and societal constraints. Single women had slightly more financial freedom, but even they faced significant barriers. The transformation of women's financial rights has been relatively recent, with the most significant progress occurring in the 20th century. So again, coverture, which is the idea that women can't accrue debt, and if they did accrue debt, their husbands would have to pay for it. So the idea is, don't let the woman accrue debt because her husband is the one that's going to have to be the one that's going to pay for it. So while women run around and they try to say, like you can't have a situation where men are beholden to women, but then women can just run around and do anything that they want. There are legal protections for women historically underneath marriage. But what feminists do is just act like women were the equivalent of black male slaves, in the South. And that's what women were. Women were oppressed by marriage. They were oppressed by the patriarchy. This bullshit. There's so many protections in there, it's not even funny. On top of the fact that, mind you, to change, for all of this to change, not a single gunshot was fired. Women simply bitched their way to the top. They didn't have to fight nobody. They didn't slay anybody, right? They didn't delete anybody, right? There were no militias of women. There were no hit and run guerrilla warfare tactics of women. There were no terrorist attacks by women. There was no woman, blowing some shit up, screaming Allahu Akbar until women get their freedom. None of that happened. Women just sat there and they bitched and they said, this isn't fair. We don't like this. And quiet as it's kept, it wasn't even all women. It was a small minority of usually highly educated, wealthy, aristocratic white women that were like, it's not fair. It's not fair. Hold on, it's tea time. Okay, those bitches are the ones that did most of the complaining, like the women's suffragists and all that shit. There were women who were against a lot of this stuff because they knew that certain things were going to come with it that they didn't want. Women don't want to have to register for the draft. They're like, wait, the right to vote, men who get the right to vote have to register for the draft. We don't want to do that shit. And this is why you see, certain groups, men in particular, that are bitching and they're like, how come the women don't have to register for the draft? And society is still wrestling with that because we infantilize women and we want to, despite all the push for, we can full steam ahead on women's rights. We can push that as hard as fuck. But when it comes to the areas of actually producing and creating true equality for the genders, like Starship Troopers, right? No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. No, man, we're not going to do that. And men, the red pill, the manosphere, MGTOW are 100% correct in calling all of this shit out. It's like, if you want equality, okay, let's make it true equality. And not only make it true equality from a legally binding, a standpoint. Let's make it true equality when it comes to the other things, like the things that the courts and the government aren't necessarily involved in, but we all know these things to be true. Like, let's make things 100% equal. Freaking dual custody by default. Let's make it 100% that across the board. That's a true equality. Or when it comes to mate selection, good luck with this one. Okay, let's get women to stop preferring tall men. Let's get women to stop preferring the man that has more money. Like we live in a society. We live in a society that the way the society is set up, like capitalism, right, is directly linked to how women engage in mate selection. You say, okay, well, let's get rid of capitalism. Oh, that would be a doozy. Because you know who would win in a society where there was no capitalism? And I don't know what the system would be after that and still maintain some level of modernity. But I always wonder, like, in the Star Trek universe, there was no money in the Star Trek universe, right? And they just explored the cosmos to, edify themselves and gain knowledge about the cosmos, right? Because, they could just do whatever they want. It always perplexed me because I'm like, okay, you got infinite money, with in Star Trek. You go to the damn what do you call that damn thing? The materializer, and it makes you, whatever the hell you want. Like why couldn't you just like imagine like a holodeck? Like people would be on the holodeck fucking bitches all day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you would just stay in the holodeck. What never made sense to me is like, why would you need the Nexus if you had the like that's, I don't know what Star Trek that was, but the one where they were trying to get to the Nexus and you had the guy who was trying to blow up the sun, which took him to like this like freaking third dimension that allowed him to, basically engage in like a fantasy world in like a dream state, right? Just type in the Nexus, it'll come up, you'll see it in Star Trek, the Nexus, right? But if like the holodeck, you could basically get anything you dream to happen on the holodeck. Was the holodeck not the Nexus, right? Like if your wife died, couldn't you just tell the holodeck to like create your ex-wife and her personality and boom, and then you're on the holodeck and you're doing that? Like, what were the regulations of the holodeck? That's what I always tried to wanted to figure out. But I'm just saying, in the Star Trek universe, I mean, the way I see it, human beings are always going to find some hierarchies, even if you took all the money out of it. Women would still be like, I want the guy who's 6'4". I want the guy with muscles. Short guys, you guys are just done. Men, we only want beautiful women. I mean, everything would just be zeroed down to attractive people. If you were ugly, if you weren't perfect in all of your beauty and handsomeness, you're just done. You're just out. You know what I mean? Like you would just be out. I don't even like, it would be like Gattaca where you walk around. They got all these perfectly genetically modified human beings and they're just walking around. You know what I mean? Then you had the religious people that were like, no, we don't believe in that. No, we believe in having natural birth because, Jesus Christ, right? And then you'd be like the dude in Gattaca where, he can't fucking see. He's nearsighted as all hell. You know what I mean? He's got freaking, what did he have? Like mitral valve prolapse or some shit. He had some heart condition. You know what I mean? And he swapped places with the dude that, broke his back, horseback riding, which was played by Jude Law. It's a good movie. It's excellent. It's excellent, like futuristic movie. You know what I mean? But there's just so many aspects of society in terms of human evolution and, where things are going, AI, genetic modifications, which is pretty much already here with CRISPR. If you don't know what CRISPR is, go look it up, Google it. Okay. And I'm saying, where is all of this going? How will people select? Right? People are tribal. People are, that's how, if you're a part of the losing team, I mean, colorism exists because African Americans are part of the losing team, right? But then you have other weird things that go on in the background where, white men feel threatened by the hypermasculinity of black men, despite black men being socioeconomically at the bottom, right? They're not threatened by any other group. They're threatened by black men in particular. It's just very weird. Right, where you think like you've cornered the market, and then there's something else out there that has people deviating. Same thing with educated lames versus street dudes, right? Educated lames, they went to school and we're good and well behaved and all that other shit that the church says morally you should be. But women on the other hand, they're like, no, I need some spice in my life. I need a man. I need a roughneck. I need a nigga that's gonna choke me. I need a nigga, because their base instincts are telling them they need a man that's rebellious because he might challenge the system that currently exists, where the well-behaved man, even though he might be able to secure resources and some sense of stability by conforming to the society, he'll never overthrow the society because he's conforming to the society, right? So there's women, in my opinion, from a genetic standpoint, women are the wild card. Every time men think that they can figure women out, and they're like, I'm providing resources, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. A woman will go out there and she'll fuck a dude just because. Like, why were you fucking him? Why did you have his baby? I don't know, because of a vibe. Like, women will just go out there and they'll, like, it doesn't matter. You could resource, but I have gold and I have land and I have resources and I have all of this. And then the woman would be like, well, I don't like your personality. Boom, done. End of the discussion. I don't like your personality, so I'm going to give my womb to this broke ass motherfucker over here, and we're going to have kids with them, and that's what we're going to do because we don't like you and we don't like patriarchy. So we're going to go over here. Then we're going to turn around and then we're going to demand that the government take resources from you and then give it to me so that I can run shit with this dusty nigga that I'm with. Ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? Like this shit is so fucked up. It's so fucked up. I don't know what else to say about it. You know what I mean? But feminists have come in the room, oh, we're so oppressed. The patriarchy, it's just about the male ego and them wanting to oppress women so that they can feel better about themselves. Right? That's what they say. Meanwhile, same group of women only swiping on the top 5% of dudes on Tinder. You know what I mean? Like it's just like we live in a world of constant contradictions. But yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest and share all that with you because I get so tired of people saying untruths, people not understanding. I don't know what they're teaching you at these liberal universities, but it's a bunch of fucking garbage. Whatever they're teaching, women's studies. I took women's studies in college. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, okay, suffragists, women right to vote, okay, women have all that, okay, but what it didn't get into, I'll tell you what it didn't get into. What women's studies does not get into when it's so busy running around talking about the oppressive nature of the patriarchy, it does not get into the sexual dating markets. It does not get into acknowledging female nature and the contradiction of female nature to feminism. I'm a feminist. Okay. I want to be independent. I want to make my own. Okay, fine. And then I want to date a man that's got more going on than I do. Okay, so that would be a situation where men would still be ahead. But I don't like the idea that men are ahead. But you want to date up though. Well, I mean, technically, I don't want to date. I want a man to at least be on my level. So he can, he can be at my level, but not below. He can be at my level or above. I'm like, okay, so from an ideological standpoint, you don't want men that are above you. You would prefer them to somehow magically be your equal financially, but you also secretly prefer men that are ahead of you because the men that are ahead of you can provide a better lifestyle for you. So you don't have to negotiate with them for your survival, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to negotiate and dictate the terms of him providing a lifestyle for you. So basically you got fuck you money at the same time. You're going to expect him to pay for everything so that you can basically live the good life. And whatever he wants out of life is totally disregarded and you don't care. I'm like, yeah, that's a recipe for men to walk away. Anyway, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.